All right, UPSC aspirants, get this. Europe wants to ramp up its defense. And who are they looking to? India. It's like something ripped straight from today's news, and it's a big deal for your UPSC prep. Why is this happening? And what does it mean for India on the world stage? Let's dig into it.
It is pretty interesting, right? This whole global shift is a goldmine for understanding those tricky international relations questions you see in both prelims and mains. Today, we're doing a deep dive, all based on a recent article from The Hindu, your go-to for current affairs. And it's all about Belgium's push to get closer to India on defense.
So Belgium wants to work with India on defense. Why, though? Is this just a random news story, or is there more to it?
Oh, it's way more than just a random story. Remember how the U.S. approach to the Russia-Ukraine war has been changing? Well, it's making European nations rethink their defense strategies. The article quotes Belgium's Deputy Prime Minister, Maxime Prévost. He said, "The situation has changed. We need to develop our own strategic autonomy, certainly regarding the defense sector."
Strategic autonomy. That sounds like something straight out of a UPSC textbook. Break it down for us. What does it really mean here?
Think of it as Europe wanting to be independent when it comes to defense. They've relied on the U.S. a lot historically, but this shift, it means they're looking to be more independent in their military and in their decision-making.
Got it. So how does India fit into this strategic autonomy idea?
Well, India is a rising power, right?
Right.
And it has a defense industry that's growing fast. The article talks about a visit by Belgian royal Princess Astrid and a massive business delegation. We're talking over 300 people to India. That's a pretty strong signal that they're serious about this partnership. They're even talking about signing an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding on Defense, by the end of 2025.
An MOU by 2025.
That sounds pretty serious.
What's in it for India, though? We've got our fair share of allies already.
True, but think about the benefits this specific partnership offers. Technology transfer, for one. Joint ventures between Indian and Belgian defense companies, potentially even access to the whole European defense market. These are huge opportunities for India to really push its Make in India initiative and become a global player in defense manufacturing.
Okay, this is starting to sound less like a partnership and more like a potential game changer for India's defense. Are there any examples of this actually happening already?
Definitely. The article mentions a joint venture between a Belgian company, John Cockerell Defense, or JCD, and an Indian company, Electro-Pneumatics and Hydraulics, or EPH. They're making tank turrets right here in India.
Tank turrets. Now we're talking specifics. What kind of tech are we talking about? And what does it mean for India being self-reliant in defense?
The tech is pretty advanced, and this is where Make in India really comes in. By working with a company like JCD, India gets access to their expertise while also building up its own manufacturing capabilities here at home. It's a win-win.
So this is good for both sides. We can't forget about the geopolitical situation, though, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's a tricky situation for India. How does this new partnership with Belgium play into all of that?
You're right, it's a great question. India has always been about engaging with all sides in this conflict. The article even mentions that India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, is going to Moscow for consultations to get ready for the annual summit between PM Modi and President Putin.
So we're seeing India getting closer to both the West and Russia. Can they really keep that up in the long run?
It's a tough balancing act, no doubt. But India's trying to find a way to keep its independence while navigating these complex situations.
This is all really interesting. It's clear how this deep dive connects to so many things in the UPSC syllabus, international relations, defense cooperation, Make in India, even India's approach to foreign policy.
Exactly. There's still a lot to unpack. But first, let's look at how this partnership actually plays out in the real world with specific projects and things like that.
Okay, let's get specific. What does this India-Belgium defense partnership actually look like in action?
It's all about the details, isn't it? It's not just agreements on paper. It's about actually working together. And the article gives us a perfect example, that joint venture between JCD and EPH for making tank turrets in India.
We talked about that a bit before, but what's so important about these tank turrets? Why is this project a big deal for India?
Well, it ties right into something the Indian Army really needs, their light tank program. This turret they're making is specifically for a tank called Zorawar. It's in trials now and being developed by India's own DRDO and Larsen and Toubro. So it's not just any project. It's right at the forefront of India's plans to modernize its defense.
I see. So we're not just talking about some random piece of military equipment. This is about boosting India's defense capabilities right now. And by making these turrets here, it's also about the Make in India initiative, right?
You got it. Make in India is a key part of this partnership. It's all about bringing in foreign investment, boosting our own manufacturing, and relying less on imports. This project shows exactly how it can work.
Makes sense. It's like a strategy with multiple benefits, stronger military, better economy, and less dependence on other countries. What about the technology itself, though? Is this just assembly, or are we talking about actual technology transfer?
That's a really important point. The article suggests this is about transferring know-how. So Indian companies aren't just putting pieces together. They're learning how to design and produce these advanced turrets. It's about building skills for the long term.
So down the line, India could potentially be making this kind of technology on its own.
Exactly. This kind of partnership is like investing in India becoming a hub for defense manufacturing. And for our UPSC folks out there, this shows India's strategic thinking, not just meeting immediate needs, but building self-reliance in defense for the future.
This episode is already full of useful points for those UPSC essays. Okay, we've talked defense, but the article also mentioned something about diamonds. Seems like a bit of a random jump.
Not so random. Remember how we talked about global events having ripple effects? Well, the G7 sanctions on raw diamonds that go through Antwerp to India, that's created a bottleneck. It's causing delays for the Indian diamond industry, which relies heavily on those raw materials.
Right. It's like a chain reaction. Global politics impacting trade, which then impacts certain industries. It shows how connected everything is.
And that's where India's idea to be recognized as a certifying authority, a node in the diamond trade, comes in. It's an attempt to make things smoother, reduce delays, and lessen the impact of those sanctions.
Smart move. But Belgium isn't part of G7, right? So can they even make that happen?
That's the thing. They can't decide on their own. But the article says they're open to finding a solution. Apparently, officials from the Indian and Belgian diamond exchanges are talking to try and find a compromise that works for everyone.
This whole diamond situation just shows that even things that seem unrelated can directly affect specific sectors. It reminds us to look beyond the headlines and see the bigger picture, something that's super important for doing well on those UPSC questions.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot. Defense collaboration, tech transfer, diamond sanctions, diplomatic balancing acts. Now it's time to put it all together and see what this Belgium-India partnership really means in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, time to zoom out. This is what I love about these deep dives. They go beyond just summarizing the news. They help us understand the why behind the what.
You got it. And that's exactly what we'll do in the last part of our deep dive. We'll explore what this partnership means for India's goals on the world stage and how it fits into the bigger geopolitical puzzle.
Okay, we've looked at the details of this Belgium-India partnership, the defense deals, the diamond issue, and the diplomatic side of things. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What does this mean for India's place in the world?
What's really interesting here is how this partnership, which seems like just between two countries, actually shows us these much bigger changes happening globally. We're seeing Europe wanting more strategic autonomy, India becoming a more important player, and even those traditional alliances being rethought.
So it's not just about Belgium and India. It's about a changing world order.
Exactly. Those old power structures are changing, and new partnerships are forming. The way the U.S. has been changing its approach to the Russia-Ukraine war has really sped this up. It's pushing European countries to find more allies and build up their own defenses.
In India, with its growing economy, its military getting stronger, and its strategic location, it fits right into this new landscape.
You're right. India has a lot to offer: economic potential, technological skills, and diplomatic influence. It makes sense that countries like Belgium want to get closer.
But what does this do to the balance of power in the world? I mean, we've always had these big power blocks. Is this partnership a sign of things to come? Are we moving towards a world with multiple power centers?
It's definitely something to think about. As countries like India become more prominent and regions like Europe want more independence, we could see a shift away from that traditional world order where one or two powers dominate. We might be heading towards a world where power is spread out more evenly.
That's a pretty big idea to grasp. A multipolar world with India as a key player that's exciting, but also a little bit intimidating, don't you think?
It definitely has both opportunities and challenges. And for those of you preparing for the UPSC, this is really important to understand. Analyzing these global trends, figuring out the motivations of different countries, and thinking about the potential consequences, those are the skills that will make you stand out in those exams.
This whole deep dive has been a perfect example of that. We started with a news story about Belgium and India and ended up talking about the future of global power dynamics. It shows how everything is connected and how important it is to think critically about what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. And remember, it all started with just one article from the Hindu. It goes to show that staying informed and really thinking about things can give you the knowledge you need to not just understand the world, but maybe even shape it as future policymakers.
So, to all our UPSC aspirants listening, keep reading those newspapers, keep asking those tough questions, and keep exploring those complex global issues. That's how you turn news into knowledge, knowledge into insight, and insight into action.
We've covered a lot today, from the specifics of this defense collaboration to the bigger implications for the world order. I hope you found it useful and relevant to your UPSC journey.
If you did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into important current events. We want to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. What do you see as India's role in this new world order? Let's keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and best of luck with your UPSC preparations.